My dear friends, we've gathered together once again. Now settle into your favorite chair and get comfortable, because today I have something special to share with you all. As I prepared this content, I kept thinking about valued viewers like you. Your likes and comments inspired me to give it my very best. I know time is precious. That's why I want to make these minutes truly worthwhile for you. If today's video brings even a small smile to your face or brightens your day just a little, that would make me so happy. Now join me on this journey. But remember, your support is what keeps this channel going. Your likes, comments, and especially your subscriptions give me the strength to continue. Shall we begin? I'm certain this special content I've prepared for you today will bring some wonderful surprises. It was the kind of drizzly London morning that made pigeons reconsider their life choices. The clouds hung low like they were nursing hangovers from a royal banquet, and even the double-decker buses moved a little slower, as if tiptoeing around Buckingham Palace out of respect for the centuries of repressed emotions echoing from its walls. Then, like a thunderclap in a church service, a distinct New York accent shattered the fog. "Hey, you with the giant raccoon on your head. Yeah, I'm talking to you, soldier boy." Robert De Niro had arrived. Wearing a leather jacket that looked like it had survived 3 mob wars and a cup of lukewarm coffee from a Soho diner, he strutted across the mall like he owned it. In one hand he carried an umbrella, not because of the rain, but because he thought it made him look more British. In the other, a lukewarm bagel wrapped in a napkin that said, "Welcome to London, please behave." A cluster of tourists gasped, fumbled for their phones, and began recording. Some whispered, "Is that the guy from Taxi Driver?" while others were too stunned to speak. Somewhere, a Buckingham Palace tour guide paused mid-fact to mutter, "Oh bloody hell, here we go again." De Niro made a beeline for the trio of royal guards stationed outside the gates, their red coats pristine, their bearskin hats towering, their expressions so stoic they could have been mistaken for wax figures on loan from Madame Tussauds. He stopped just inches from one of them, a particularly tall, square-jawed guard whose face looked like it had been carved out of cold granite and denial. "Let me ask you something, Mr. Queen's silent partner," De Niro said, squinting up at the man. "You blink? You breathe? You got a soul in there, or just tea leaves and crushed dreams?" Silence. De Niro grinned. "Oh, you're one of those. Real tough guy. Strong silent type, huh? You been watching my movies or something? Lemme guess, Raging Bull, right? You think you're the British Jake LaMotta?" Still nothing. He began pacing in front of the guard like a deranged one-man theater troupe. "You know, back in my neighborhood, if a guy stared at you that long without saying nothing, you either married him or threw hands." A tourist giggled. A child asked their parent what "throw hands" meant. Robert wheeled around and jabbed his umbrella, not threateningly, just dramatically, at the guard's boot. "That's Italian leather right there, pal. One scuff from your royal stilts and you owe me 30 quid. Still nothing. All right, you leave me no choice," De Niro said. He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a cannoli, wrapped in what looked like a faded napkin from Little Italy. He held it up like a sacred offering. "This is heritage. Culture. Carbohydrate royalty. You ever tasted one? Probably not. You lot probably think spice is putting lemon in tea." The guard remained unmoved, but somewhere in the distance, a pigeon dropped dead, possibly from second-hand embarrassment. Robert edged even closer. "You know, my cousin Vinny used to guard stuff too. Not palaces, mind you, mostly liquor stores in Jersey. But he had a sense of humor. You're like a brick wall that went to etiquette school." He stared up at the guard with exaggerated intensity. "I'm watching you, fuzzy hat. You so much as twitch, and I'll call you out like it's 1976 and I just got snubbed at the Oscars." Nothing. Then De Niro did something that would, in any other context, start a small international incident. He extended the cannoli, gently, reverently, and tapped the guard on the chest with it. "I dub thee, Sir Buzzkill the Stiff." Somewhere behind the fence, a guard in training dropped his musket in shock. Still no movement. But there was a tension now. The kind of stillness just before a royal reprimand or a perfectly timed pie fight. De Niro stepped back and raised his hands like a magician finishing a trick. Ladies and gentlemen, behold, the man with a heartbeat slower than Parliament on a Friday. Applause. Laughter. One American tourist yelled, "You tell 'em, Bobby." Then the unimaginable happened. The Royal Guard sniffed. Just a sniff. A slight inhale. But De Niro pounced. "IJ, you smell that? That's pastry, baby. That's culture. That's 1,000 years of New York stubbornness wrapped in powdered sugar." Another guard, the one on the left, blinked. De Niro turned. And another one joins the human race. It's a miracle, folks. I'm like a priest for statues. He bowed theatrically. A child handed him a toy crown. He wore it. "Tell the Queen I'm available for knighthood on Tuesdays. I bring my own biscuits." He turned back to the first guard and, with a mock-serious face, whispered, "Next time I bring meatballs. Let's see you survive that temptation." The tourists erupted in laughter. Phones clicked. Hashtags were born. Hashtag cannoli diplomacy, hashtag De Niro versus the Crown, hashtag Royal Rumble Snack Edition. And as Robert De Niro strolled off into the London mist, still wearing the plastic crown and munching on half a cannoli, the guard's left eyebrow twitched. Victory. De Niro hadn't even made it to the gates of Green Park when he heard a voice, crisp, authoritative, and somehow both polite and utterly furious. "Mr. De Niro, halt." He turned. And there, flanked by an entire phalanx of royal guards marching in lockstep, was a woman in a tweed blazer and impossibly polished brogues. Lady Penelope Haversham, Royal Etiquette Enforcement Officer, retired, had returned to service. She held up a scroll. An actual parchment scroll, sealed with wax. "You are hereby summoned for a formal royal response to your affront to Her Majesty's ceremonial forces," she declared. De Niro blinked. "Lady, who now?" "Follow me, sir." And before he could protest, the guards had gently, yet firmly, formed a circle around him. "Is this a royal citizen's arrest?" he asked. "No," Penelope said with a tight-lipped smile. "It's a royal roast." De Niro was marched back to the palace courtyard, where a small platform had been erected. Bunting flapped. A brass band played an aggressively chipper version of the Taxi Driver theme. On the stage stood the original guard, the one he'd dubbed Sir Buzzkill. Only now, he held a tray of pastries. "Mr. De Niro," Penelope intoned, "you've poked the crown. Now you eat the consequences." A chair was placed at center stage. De Niro sat, unsure whether he was at a disciplinary tribunal or the world's most British bake-off. The guard stepped forward. "You brought cannoli. We bring treacle." He held up a dense, glistening, almost weaponized slice of treacle tart. De Niro winced. "You trying to kill me with carbs?" One by one, the guards offered him strange British confections. Spotted Dick, Eccles cake, Jaffa cakes, blood pudding. "Is this punishment?" he asked after his fourth biscuit. "It's diplomacy," Penelope replied. De Niro leaned back. "Then I surrender. To the Queen. To the monarchy. And to this thing," he held up a sausage roll, "which is either delicious or a dare." The crowd erupted in cheers. Penelope stepped forward. "You may now address the monarchy." De Niro stood, cleared his throat. "Your Highness, or your Crumpetness, or whoever's in charge today. I just want to say, I came here to see some history. Maybe shake up a few powdered wigs. But instead, I got diabetes. And that's beautiful." Thunderous applause. Somewhere, a corgi barked approvingly. Penelope nodded. "Very well. You are forgiven." As De Niro exited the stage, the original guard gave him a subtle thumbs up. De Niro grinned. "I knew you had it in ya." The morning drizzle had given way to an unusually bold sunbeam slicing through the London grey like a diva demanding attention. The air smelled of fresh asphalt, warm pastries, and misplaced expectations. Robert De Niro stood outside Buckingham Palace, hands in his trench coat pockets, glaring up at the iconic gates like they owed him money. Behind him, a tour group murmured in a dozen different languages. A child was licking a railing. An elderly woman with binoculars was convinced she'd just seen the Queen's corgi blink twice. Code, she claimed, for the revolution begins at tea time. Robert grumbled under his breath. I did Raging Bull for this. He wasn't here on vacation. He wasn't even here for a role. He was here for revenge. It all started 3 days ago, when Robert tried to take a casual walk through St. James's Park. He'd been enjoying a lukewarm sausage roll, reminiscing about when people respected actors and pigeons didn't have TikToks. Then it happened. He tripped over a small velvet rope. And a royal guard laughed. Not a loud laugh. Not even a chuckle. Just the faintest nasal exhale through the nose. But it was enough. Enough to trigger De Niro's New York instincts. And now here he was, back at the palace, ready to reclaim his honor and roast whatever stone-faced sentry had dared snicker at him. All right, where's Giggles? He barked. The guards, of course, didn't move. 3 stood at attention. Red coats pristine. Hats like chimney brushes gone to finishing school. Their expressions? As lively as an unplugged fax machine. Robert squinted. You with the eyebrows like 2 dead caterpillars doing a tango. You're the one, huh? Silence. Don't play statue with me, buddy. I've acted opposite Joe Pesci. You think I'm scared of a dude who looks like a mailbox in heat. Still nothing. The tourists started filming. Oh great, Robert said. Now I'm trending on TikTok next to some teen who dances while eating Tide Pods. He stepped forward. You know what? Let's settle this the British way. From his pocket, he pulled a biscuit. Not just any biscuit. A hobnob. Chocolate. The nuclear option of passive-aggressive snacks. I challenge you to a duel. You, me, and this cookie. Loser has to admit Keanu Reeves is more intimidating. One of the guards blinked. A gasp rippled through the crowd. He blinked. A tourist shouted. Robert smiled. Aha. So you can respond. Good. Now let's see if you can chew. He snapped the hobnob in half, handed a piece toward the nearest guard. Come on. Bite it. I dare you. I double-dog royal dare you. The guard didn't move. But a pigeon landed on his shoulder. And it pecked the biscuit. Robert narrowed his eyes. You got pigeons doing your dirty work now? What are you, the godfather of feathered freeloaders? Just then, a voice rang out from the gatehouse. Sir. Step away from the biscuit. It was a guard commander. Mustache like a snowplow, voice like boiled tweed. Robert turned. Oh, now you talk? Where were you when the Queen's dog tried to sniff my kneecaps? The commander pointed. You violated Article 14b of the Royal Engagement Act. No unsolicited pastry-based challenges on palace grounds. Robert scoffed. Yeah. Well, I violated Article Shut the hell up. The tourists loved that one. Someone yelled, Say it again for Instagram. Robert obliged. He posed. He squinted. He monologued. You ever look a royal guard in the face and realize he's just a man? A man who's one digestive biscuit away from cracking like a teacup in a jet engine. The guards didn't blink. But then, one of them twitched. The twitch turned into a shift. And then, blasphemy upon the crown. The middle guard smirked. The crowd screamed. A corgi fainted. A tourist fainted after seeing the corgi faint. The commander gasped. Corporal Buttons. Stand down. Corporal Buttons raised his hand. And extended a biscuit of his own. A shortbread. It glowed like Excalibur made of butter and passive aggression. Robert took a step back. You come at me with shortbread? That's your move. Buttons nodded. And then, he bit it. A crumb landed on his chin. Robert stared at the crumb. You disrespect me with crumbs? He pulled out another hobnob. I see your shortbread, and I raise you chocolate-coated obliteration. The guards stepped forward. One pace. Unified. The commander screamed. What are you doing? This isn't regulation. But it was too late. The duel had begun. Robert hurled his hobnob like a discus. Buttons swatted it mid-air with a ceremonial saber. The crowd roared. The guards spun like ballroom dancers trained by MI6. Robert did a cartwheel. His back cracked. He swore. I'm not pulling a hamstring for Queen and country, damn it. The battle raged. Biscuits flew like frisbees of doom. The air was thick with crumbs and pride. Then, the Queen's butler emerged, holding tea. Enough, he said, with the finality of an avalanche wearing monocles. Gentlemen, it is 4 o'clock. Everyone froze. He set the tray down. Tea time. The guards stopped. Robert bowed slightly. Well played, redcoats. Corporal Buttons adjusted his hat and gave the faintest nod. Robert picked up a scone, took a bite, and sighed. Still better than catering on the Irishman. The crowd cheered. The guards returned to post. And Robert De Niro walked off into the London fog. Not as a winner. Not as a loser. But as the only man in history to force the royal guard into pastry warfare. And somewhere, deep in the royal kitchen, a corgi saluted. Just when the gates of Buckingham seemed ready to close on one of the most absurdly heartwarming chapters in royal snack diplomacy, fate, like a rogue pigeon with a grudge, dove back in for one final twist. Robert De Niro had barely turned the corner, clutching his honorary golden thermos and mumbling about biscotti, when a tremendous boom echoed across the mall. Everyone froze. From the fog emerged a scooter. But not just any scooter. A matte black Vespa, retrofitted with chrome exhausts, Union Jack racing stripes, and playing an 8-bit remix of the Godfather theme. Riding it, none other than Nigel Crumbleton, notorious rogue baker, banned from the British Biscuit Federation for lacing shortbread with chili flakes and quoting Nietzsche during bake-off editions. Nigel skidded to a stop in front of the palace gates. "You call that a final act?" he shouted. "You people haven't seen real drama since Mary Berry left the tent." Robert, turning back slowly like a Western gunslinger, narrowed his eyes. "Oh great," he muttered. "The gluten anarchist." Nigel pointed a cinnamon stick like it was a dagger. "I challenge thee to the Continental Crumb Clash." The crowd gasped again. A toddler dropped their sippy cup. A corgi fainted. Sir Reginald stepped forward. That ritual was outlawed after the Vienna pastry incident of 1874. Nigel smiled, deranged and dramatic. "Then let's make history." The gates burst open once more. Tourists were ushered behind velvet ropes. Emergency tea carts were wheeled in. Flags from France, Italy, Austria, and a rogue baklava syndicate from Turkey were raised. The biscotti rebellion had begun. A long table emerged from beneath the cobblestones like a Bond villain's buffet. On it, biscotti, eclairs, palmiers, millefeuille, stroopwafels, cannoli, and a single croissant laminated so perfectly it glistened with divine intent. Nigel strutted to the center. "I present the pain au chocolate," he declared. "Pronounce it wrong, and I walk." Robert stepped forward, gold thermos holstered like a pistol. "I brought backup." From behind the crowd emerged Al Pacino, wearing sunglasses, a velvet robe, and holding a tiramisu like it was a live grenade. "Let's get cookin'," he bellowed. The crowd lost it. People FaceTimed relatives. BBC reporters wept. Piers Morgan fainted. Round 1, tiramisu versus treacle tart. Al Pacino smashed it down. Nigel sniffed. No crunch. No backbone. Pacino lifted the tiramisu. "That's the point, you baked bean. It's emotional. It's tender. It's Shakespeare in sponge form." Judges from the International Snack Tribunal scored it even. Round 2. Biscotti versus Empire Biscuit. Robert De Niro took a bite of his rock-hard biscotti. "It's like chewing a memory of a punch." Sir Reginald winced. "Respectable." Round 3. Macaron versus custard cream. Nigel produced a neon-pink macaron that looked radioactive. Pacino tasted it, coughed, and shouted, "Who put sadness in this thing?" Robert shrugged. "It's French." The tribunal began to sweat. These pastries weren't just snacks. They were emotions. Suddenly, the Queen's corgi chariot returned, carrying a figure cloaked in shadows. Gasps. It was Dame Judi Dench. She stepped off with a ginger snap so sharp it could cut glass. "I will not allow this to descend into chaos," she declared. "Dame Dench," De Niro whispered, reverently. "You were my second choice for Philomena," she said flatly. He bowed. She looked to Nigel. "Your baking is strong, but your heart is stale." Nigel crumbled, emotionally and pastry-wise. He fell to his knees. I just wanted someone to notice my baklava swan." Pacino patted his shoulder. "We all got pain, kid. Let it rise. Like dough." The crowd erupted. Nigel was offered a place at the Palace Bakery Rehabilitation Program. Al and Robert were made co-ambassadors of biscuit culture. The Royal Guard gave them each a miniature bearskin hat and saluted them by dunking digestives in unison. A new plaque was unveiled. Here stood the battleground of flavor, honor, and confusion. "May all who munch remember, snacks unite." As the sun dipped behind the palace, Robert looked at Al. "Wanna start a biscotti food truck?" Al grinned. "Only if I get to drive it like a lunatic through Hyde Park." They fist-bumped, boarded Nigel's Vespa, and rode into the London night. With a basket of croissants, a dream, and a corgi-riding sidecar. The London night had settled like a velvet curtain, soft, quiet, yet holding the tension of a final act yet to unfold. The last crumbs of battle had been swept up. Nigel Crumbleton, now clad in a palace-issued apron that read "Bake, Don't Break," had been whisked away to a therapeutic baking circle run by retired MI6 pastry operatives. But for Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, the biscuit duel had left a hole no shortbread could fill. They sat together on the steps of Buckingham Palace, sipping lukewarm chamomile tea from Royal Guard-themed thermoses. Their miniature bearskin hats tilted sideways, like battle-weary veterans. Robert sighed. "You ever feel like you peaked at biscotti?" Al squinted. "I once fought the devil in a subway tunnel. But yeah, that biscotti hit different." Suddenly, soft clapping echoed from the shadows. From behind a rose bush emerged King Charles, wearing silk pajamas, a velvet robe, and bunny slippers shaped like corgis. "Gentlemen," he said, nodding gravely. "That was the finest display of international confectionery diplomacy I've seen since the Battle of the Bakewell Tart Treaty." De Niro blinked. "You watched the whole thing?" The king lifted a monocle. "Twice. Live stream. TikTok edit was divine." Pacino raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you on TikTok?" Charles smiled. "At Scoon Daddy Official." There was a pause. The silence of disbelief. "I teach emotional resilience through jam layering." No one questioned it. The king walked closer. "There's one final matter to attend." The palace gates creaked open one last time. A golden chariot pulled by 6 royal corgis emerged, this time pulling a biscuit throne. Engraved on the back, "In crumbs we trust." "You've earned this," Charles said. "You've brought honor, chaos, and a mild sugar high to our kingdom." Robert looked at Al. Al looked at the throne. Then back at the corgis. "I'm riding that biscuit throne like it's a convertible," Pacino said. They climbed aboard. Tourists and palace staff gathered once more. Even the robot corgi returned, now updated with a jam detection sensor and playing Bohemian Rhapsody on harmonica. As the throne rolled down the mall, the royal guards lined both sides. Each one held up a different biscuit. Digestives, hobnobs, bourbon creams. It was a salute like no other. Children threw jelly babies into the air. A flash mob in powdered wigs performed a synchronized crumble. Helicopters filmed the spectacle for the BBC's upcoming documentary, When Legends Dunked. De Niro leaned forward. This is what it's all about." Pacino nodded solemnly. Friendship. Crumbs. A government-issued napkin. As they reached Trafalgar Square, something unexpected happened. Sir Reginald, the usually stoic royal guard, sprinted ahead of the procession. He stopped the biscuit throne with a white-gloved hand. "There's one tradition left," he said. He reached into his coat. Out came a single, gold-trimmed custard cream. "This," he said, "is the ceremonial final dunk." He handed it to De Niro. Robert, tears in his eyes, took the biscuit. "What do I do?" "Dunk it in the royal mug." A butler arrived holding a chalice of Earl Grey that shimmered like liquid diplomacy. Robert dunked the biscuit. Slowly, reverently. A hush fell over the crowd. As the biscuit rose, a single drop fell to the earth, and the heavens opened. Confetti cannons disguised as lampposts exploded. Fireworks spelled "Crumb King" in the sky. Elton John appeared from a pastry cart and began singing Tiny Dancer with slightly adjusted lyrics. "Hold me closer, golden biscotti." Pacino stood, arms raised. "Let it be known, we came, we dunked, we crumbled." The crowd erupted. Even the Queen's ghost allegedly whispered, "Nice one, lads," through the hedgerows. As the biscuit throne passed through Westminster, Robert and Al looked at each other. "No one's gonna believe this," De Niro said. "Which is why we're selling the movie rights," Pacino replied. Working title, The Corgi Protocol. And so, as the night swallowed London in its royal velvet hush, two unlikely heroes left behind a legacy not of violence, not of conflict, but of cream-filled diplomacy and crunchy camaraderie. The royal guard returned to duty. The tourists went home, confused and happy. And somewhere, deep inside the Tower of London, a single biscotti rested in a velvet box marked "Break in case of crumpet emergency." The end. Just when it seemed the biscuit-laced saga had come to its glorious end, a curious rustling beneath Buckingham Palace reignited the chaos. A pigeon, wearing a monocle and trailing a scroll, landed on the biscuit throne's footrest. De Niro squinted at it. "You seeing this, Al?" Al nodded slowly. "Either that's a government bird or I've finally lost it." The scroll unfurled itself. A royal seal shimmered in jam-colored wax. "Urgent. To whom it may concern, there is a scone vault beneath the palace. It has been breached. Repeat. The scone vault has been breached." Below the message, a line in urgent calligraphy. "Operation Scoonstorm has been reactivated. Assemble the dunk force." Robert stood up. "This smells like sabotage." Pacino turned to the royal guard. "You guys got a tactical bakery unit, or what?" Sir Reginald nodded gravely. "The yeast elite. Retired after the Great Croissant Rebellion of '83. Robert cracked his knuckles. "Time to dust them off." Cut to an underground scone bunker. Secret passageways beneath Buckingham Palace revealed a fully operational underground pastry war room. Projectors showed scone heat maps. Laser pointers hovered over diagrams labeled jam ratio tolerance. Robert and Al were now dressed in tactical tea-ware armor, ceramic shoulder plates, sugar cube grenades, and lemon zest grappling hooks. The yeast elite, elderly warriors wielding rolling pins like battle axes, stood at attention. Their leader, Dame Beatrix Muffinworth, saluted with a whisk. "We've got a rogue jam operative. Codename, Clotty." "Clotty," Pacino echoed. "Clotted cream gone rogue. Mixed with nutmeg and vengeance." The screen flickered to life. A fuzzy image showed Clotty, an anthropomorphic blob of cream with googly eyes and a crown made of mini scones, cackling as she swirled through the vault. "She's activated the CRUMB protocol," Muffinworth explained. De Niro blinked. "What the hell is that?" "Cream rises under massive bake-off." A hushed gasp filled the bunker. "She's building a megascoon," said Muffinworth, voice trembling. "If it rises too far," she continued, "it'll block out the London eye. Forever." Robert slammed the table. "We're not letting London get overcast by gluten. Not on my watch." Pacino nodded. "Let's jam." The infiltration. The entrance to the scone vault was heavily guarded by malfunctioning teabag drones. Robert spun a tea kettle like nunchucks. Al lobbed sugar cube grenades that exploded with satisfying puffs of powdered sweetness. They reached the chamber. Inside, Clotty loomed. Gigantic, swirling, creamy. Her voice echoed, "You will drown in delight." Pacino shouted back, "I'm lactose intolerant." The battle commenced. Clotty hurled biscuit shurikens. Robert dodged and retaliated with a custard whip. Al Pacino used a jam jetpack to fly over the scone volcano, dropping butter bombs into the rising dough. It hissed, roared, then trembled. Beatrix threw Robert the royal stirring spoon, forged in the kettles of Stonehenge. He stabbed it into Clotty. Time froze. The cream bubbled, gurgled, then up. Clotty exploded into a gentle blizzard of sweetened mist. Everyone stood in silent awe. Then rain of jam. Tourists nearby held out crumpets. One wept, "It's beautiful." The aftermath. London cheered. The skies cleared. BBC anchors cried on live television. King Charles knighted both Robert and Al with baguettes. "You've not just saved our scones," he said. "You've saved the soul of British baking." They bowed. The yeast elite retired once more, this time opening a chain of underground